Chapter 21. Once in Rome, it was only a short ride on the metro to the Circo Massimo stop. As we came out of the underground station, I noticed how the day had taken on a golden haze. There wasn't much time before nightfall, and my plan of sneaking in with a group of tourists might hit a snag if it was too late in the day and the compound was closed. We quickly walked along the tree-lined gravel footpath that separated us from the speeding cars on the left and the ancient ruins of the Roman racetrack on the right. My heart fluttered every time a motorcyclist zoomed past us. But for the time being, it appeared we had managed to throw our two assassins off our scent. "Go through there. It's a shortcut." Asher pointed to a bike path that went through the middle of the park on the opposite side of the street. "Plus, we won't be so visible." Darting between cars, we crossed and made our way through the park onto Via di Santa Sabina. The quiet street was flanked on the right by a large brick wall, and the left alternated between parking lots, narrow side street, or the back of buildings. "Is that it?" Simone was looking through a wrought iron fence that closed off a small park and church. About 100 yards away, past a few benches and a scattering of trees, I could see Rome's skyline. Red clay rooftops and different hues of peach-colored buildings stood out against the cloudy sky. "No, the compound is further down, at the very end of the street." Asher adjusted the backpack strap on his shoulder. "Over there." He pointed to where the street dead-ended at a small courtyard. People were lined up in front of a pair of massive doors, the entrance to the Priorato di Malta. I let out a huge sigh of relief. We'd made it in time. Now we needed to blend in with the other tourists. I quickly walked through the courtyard, watching each person take their turn looking through the secret keyhole. I'd hoped to find a group with reservations to see the inside of the compound and sneak in with them, but it didn't seem like any of these people were going inside. I tilted my head to look up at the huge perimeter wall, which made the compound more of a fortress. My backup plan had been to climb over the wall, but it was at least 20 feet tall. As the last of the tourists left the area and headed down the street, the three of us immediately went over to the door. On the upper corner of the gate, I spotted a small security camera. Someone was watching us. "So what now?" Asher asked, bending over to put his eye against the keyhole. I stayed silent for a couple of moments. Both of my plans had fallen apart. Asher straightened up and took a step away from the door. "I don't see anyone in there. Either of you have any ideas?" "Let me look." Simone peered through the keyhole. "We could knock," I suggested. "Knock?" Simone turned her head to look at me. "Just knock?" "Yeah." I was forming a new plan. "We knock to get their attention, then show them the box through the camera. It's our bait. They'll either think it's a delivery or they'll know exactly what the box is. Either way, someone will come to the door, and when they do that, then Asher can rush them." Simone stood up with a twinkle in her eye. "I'm not an attack dog that you sick on people." Asher leaned against the door. "But it could work, although I suggest we give them a chance to let us in before forcing ourselves inside." He pulled the box from his backpack, keeping his left hand in his pocket. "Make sure you don't let them see your ring, Cassie." I had already carefully twisted the ring around, so all that could be seen was the plain silver band. With my right hand, I slammed the metal door knocker several times, creating loud, echoing bangs through the stillness of the courtyard. The three of us waited. Asher lifted the box toward the camera in case anyone was zooming in on us. Nothing happened. The door remained closed, and we were no closer to getting inside. Simone looked through the keyhole again, then tried to fit her pinky into the opening. "If only we had something that could pick this lock." "A key," I muttered. Signora Pescatore had told us about a key. What had she said? I tried to think of the exact words. "The key is in the eye of the beholder." Maybe it said something to do with my eye, the way I saw things. "Scoot over," I said to Simone. "Let me look through it." The keyhole was deep, not allowing me to see much except for what was directly ahead, but what I could see was exactly as described in the guidebooks. A line of cypress trees inside the compound formed a tunnel to the edge of the hill, and at the end, in the distance, was the Vatican dome. A burst of light flashed in my eye, and I jumped back. "What is it?" Asher asked. I blinked, still seeing the blue-white line. "A light, like someone taking a picture." Simone checked the keyhole again. "Nothing happens when I look through it." I nodded. I thought I might see something different because I'm the one with the birthmark. Signora Pescatore said the key was in the eye of the beholder. I glanced up at the camera again. I didn't think it would try to blind me. Curiouser and curiouser, Simone mumbled. What? Asher asked. Just a line from a book, Simone said. It feels like we're falling through the rabbit hole. I have no idea what you're talking about, but if... Asher shut up as the door creaked open. A large man wearing a dark suit, white shirt, and skinny black tie stood there looking at the three of us. He was bigger than a bodybuilder and less of a neck. Tu, he pointed at me. Seguimi. Gli altri aspettano aquí. He wanted me to follow him inside. Am I friends? I asked. His cold stare sent a shiver up my spine. In English, then, he said with a very thick accent. Only you. The Grand Consigliere wishes to see you. The others wait here. No. Asher stepped in front of me. She doesn't go in alone. It didn't seem to matter to Asher that this man dwarfed him in height and width. The man cracked his knuckles. He may have been wearing a suit, but his business was not sitting behind a desk. He was some kind of guard. To stress this fact, he slowly pulled his jacket to the side, revealing a gun holster. Then she stay out here with you, he answered, placing a hand on the door as if to close it. Wait. Simone eased Asher back and spoke directly to the guard. I know your boss doesn't want Cassie to go away. If she leaves, it'll be your responsibility, and that may get you into some serious trouble. She paused for emphasis. And no one wants any trouble, right? Simone had his attention. She was good at this type of thing. So why don't you go inside and explain that we are a package deal? We all come in, or we all go home. We'll give you a few minutes to give us an answer. The guard's jaw tensed up and his eyes narrowed. Fine. Stay here. He closed the door with a large thud. That was awesome, I whispered to Simone, giving her a little nudge. You totally got him to back down. Simone smiled. I could see that she was proud of herself. Have to admit, Asher said reluctantly, you did sound pretty convincing. Guess you've picked out a few things from your mother. That was all me, not my mother. I wasn't pretending I was her. Asher shrugged. Sure, whatever. It doesn't matter, I said, not wanting to get distracted by their bickering. You called his bluff. You did great. I peered through the keyhole again to see if I could see the guard and was quickly blinded once again by the flash. Ugh! I rubbed my eyes. Stupid light? Again? Simone shook her head and looked back through it herself. I see him. He's walking back. I felt a twinge of excitement in my chest. This was it. Okay, if they let us in, we have to remember to act like dumb kids on a class assignment so we can check out the place. I don't think that's going to work anymore, Cassie. Asher returned the box to his backpack and slung the bag over his shoulder. Based on what just happened, they know that we're not ordinary kids. We just have to keep our eyes open and not say much. See what they know. No, Simone shook her head. What we need is to go find the spear and get out of here. Cassie isn't safe until we have it. Well, yeah, Asher rolled his eyes. That's what I meant. Guys! I motioned toward the door. It was being opened. You may all come in, the guard stated. Follow me. He held the door open as we stepped into the compound. Inside, the area was lush with trees and plants. But there were no paintings or statues with spears or daggers through the heart, like the box's poem mentioned. At least none that I could see. Simone leaned towards me. Where are we going? She whispered. The consigliere's office, the guard announced, clearly having overheard Simone's question. She requested to speak with you directly. What is a consigliere? I asked. She's an advisor, a director of sorts. The guard sounded like he was annoyed with us. We entered a small 2-story building. The stone floor of the foyer was inlaid with red marble in the shape of a large Maltese cross. The guard walked around the design, careful not to step on it, and the three of us followed suit. He stopped in front of a wooden door with a frosted glass window and knocked. Bring them in, Massimo, a woman's voice called out. The guard opened the door and we walked in. The Grand Consigliere, he said, motioning with his hand to a woman sitting behind an antique wooden desk. Dame Elizabeth. She was an older woman with silver hair pulled back in a twist, wearing a dark blue dress and a pink scarf around her neck. She was attractive, but there was a no-nonsense look to her. There was also something vaguely familiar. "Welcome," she said, standing up to greet us. "Please, have a seat. We have some things to discuss." She turned her attention to the guard. "That will be all, Massimo. Thank you." Massimo did a curt little bow and backed out of the room, closing the door behind him. The three of us stood by the door, unsure what to do next. We needed to explore the area, and an administrator's office was not where we were going to start our search. "Let's begin with your names," Dame Elizabeth said. "And what brings you here?" Simone stepped forward and extended her right hand. "I'm Simone Bimington, and this is Cassie and Asher." Both Asher and I gave a slight nod. "Pleasure to meet all of you." Dame Elizabeth shook Simone's hand, but she didn't take her eyes off me. "Cassie, you said?" "Yes," I answered. "Well, actually it's Cassandra, but everyone calls me Cassie." Cassandra." She let my name roll off her tongue. It felt as if she were weighing the word, determining its worth. "A strong, good name," she said, still staring at me with a gaze so intense that it felt like she was memorizing my face. Excuse me, but do you think we might be able to get a tour of the grounds?" Asher asked. Dame Elizabeth peeled her eyes away from me. "Yes, of course." She arched a single eyebrow and smiled. "Although I believe you are here for more than just a tour?" None of us said anything. We all maintained blank expressions as if we didn't know what she meant. "My dears, the keyhole confirmed it. We already know Cassandra passed the test." "Test?" I thought about the flash of light I'd seen while looking through the keyhole. "Yes, a retinal scanner is hidden in the door. People look through there thinking they are only seeing a pretty picture, never realizing that we are looking at them too." She was staring at me intently again, like I was a bug under a microscope. "Your eye pattern. It's like your birthmark. It identifies you. It tells us you are one of the marked ones. The knights will now protect you and make sure the Hastati don't make you a target." I bristled at the mention of the Hastati. It was enough for Dame Elizabeth to suspect something was wrong. "Oh no," she said. "Have they targeted you? Do they know of you?" Simone shook her head. "I think you might have us confused with someone else because—" Dame Elizabeth raised her hand and cut Simone off. "You've learned not to speak of this, nor trust others with the information. That's good." She stood up. "But you're not here by coincidence. I've been hoping that one day Cassandra would show up, and I'd be able to give her refuge." She studied our reactions. "This is why you're here, correct? Seeking refuge?" Asher, Simone, and I exclaimed a quick glance. "Yes," we all said in unison. "Then that is what I will offer you. A safe haven until we can find something more permanent. May I see what you're holding outside?" She approached Asher. He took off his backpack, pulled out the box, and handed it to her. She gazed at it, flipped it over, and ran her fingers along the leaf carvings. "After all these years," Dame Elizabeth muttered. "Where did you find it?" she asked. "It was given to us," I said, "by a friend." "I see." Dame Elizabeth clutched the box to her chest, closed her eyes for a moment, and smiled. "This brings back some very special memories." "Is it yours?" Asher asked. "No, it was my daughter's." She sighed and then looked at me. "I'm sorry to keep staring at you, Cassandra," she said, her eyes now gentle and soft. "You just look so much like her." I gave her a slight smile, but all I was thinking that, if the box was her daughter's, then maybe her daughter was the one who hid the spear. We were getting closer to finding it. "Are you sure the box was hers?" Simone questioned. "It could just be similar." "Oh, I'm sure," she said, leaning against the desk and setting the box down. "She spent an entire summer here making it herself. I can still see her now, sitting right there working on it." She pointed out the window to a small, perfectly manicured garden with a bench that overlooked the city. "She'd be there for hours. It was her favorite spot." "Is your daughter still here?" Simone asked. "No." Dame Elizabeth had a pained expression on her face. "She passed away almost 13 years ago." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, disappointed that another link to the spear had disappeared. Dame Elizabeth scrunched her eyebrows together and gave me a strange look. "I don't understand. Didn't you know? Certainly you knew." Now it was my turn to be confused. No, I shook my head. How would I know about your daughter? Oh my. Dame Elizabeth straightened up, stared at me. You don't know, she said softly. I thought that was why you'd come, because you already knew. Knew what? I asked. Dame Elizabeth took a few steps and reached for my hand, holding it between both of hers. Cassandra, my daughter was... She paused for a moment, trying to come up with the right words. My daughter was your mother. I'm your grandmother.